JB and Bill. This is Triple M's Rush Hour. Round 2 of the AFL season has been run and won. And the AFL's biggest newsbreaker, Damian Barrett, is in the studio.
Wrapping up the weekend of footy.
Get Purple in here and discuss footy.
This is Damo's recovery session.
Geez, bit of news kicking around, Purple, as we welcome you.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Bill. There is. It started last Friday night, didn't it? With the pre-match, the early part of the Geelong Lions game, the quarter time station. There's still an after effect of that. A free kick, Bill, which you said was 50-50.
I haven't seen it.
As we speak, Chris Scott yet to be dealt with by the AFL. There'll be some form of announcement around that. But the big issue for those who haven't caught up with it, official transferal of that Thursday night game, Jim, from the Gabba. Brisbane Lions versus Collingwood now to be played at Marvel Stadium. The Lions haven't been able to return to Brisbane since that game, Bill. They got to Geelong last Thursday night in readiness for that Friday night game. They actually went back to Melbourne on Saturday. Were told by the AFL yesterday, do not go. And as a result of today's lockdown in Brisbane by the Queensland government for 3 days as of tonight, they will be staying in Melbourne for that game on Thursday night. And it is indefinite as to when they can get back. Ideally, they leave on Friday. But again, like a lot of things last year, no guarantees.
It's worked out okay, really, hasn't it, for them to stay in Melbourne and they can play this game against Collingwood at Marvel.
Why is it at Marvel?
Because Collingwood's got to play one game at Marvel.
Right. Oh, so they can even get away with that?
One of their home games
at
Marvel. Yeah, one of their home games got to be at Marvel.
And just logistically, the return match, which fortunately Collingwood and Brisbane were going to have by way of the fixture anyway, round 22, that was initially scheduled for Melbourne, Marvel, and now that will be played at the Gabba, Bill, which will mean that the last 4 games, as it stands for the Lions now on the fixturing, will be at the Gabba.
Gabba do.
Righto. What else is making news, please?
Yeah, just the Chris Scott thing. As we talk right now, it's yet to be determined. I feel there'll have to be some form of statement around it, Jim, with his tete-a-tete with some Lions players, which I personally love, and I don't know whether I'm able to say that anymore, given the messaging that the AFL is going to need to send at some stage down the rung, because you can't have coaches at suburban and junior level potentially doing this. Well, it was on, wasn't it? I mean, Gary Rowan had that clash with Lachie Neale at that stage.
Yeah, before that. Yep.
Yeah, Chris Scott's version is that Lachie Neale said something about Gary Rowan to Chris Scott, and we all know Chris well enough to know that he isn't walking away from that situation. No. In fact, he walked toward it, and then some other Lions players may have said something, and then Chris might have questioned the way they go about some of their stuff, the Lions, as you would in that heat of the moment scenario. And then it was pointed out to Chris Scott by, I believe, Harris Andrews, Bill, or someone who sounded like Harris Andrews, said, well, we're not as weak as what you were in the grand final of last year.
I'm just reading this here, and I quote, as other Brisbane players soon jumped in the war of words, with Barrett raising defender Harris Andrews' name as one of the players who might have sledged him not as soft as you pricks in the grand final.
Well, hello.
Damian.
Giving you a bit of that fat.
Wow,
Have some of that.
Can you beep that out, Bill?
No, that's what you said. That's what you quoted.
What supposedly Harris Andrews or someone who sounded like Harris Andrews said.
And is that when you got that funny look from Chris Scott? You know,
I think it was.
Yeah. And he wanted to go, and then a couple of Geelong blokes, Cam Guthrie and Joel had to say, mate, you're actually coaching here, buddy. Come over and do that. So he'll get a fine or?
Look, there'll be a please explain at the very least. There'll be a messaging around it. There may be a fine. I'm not convinced of that part of it, but the AFL, I can see why they are going to need to say something publicly because they need to distance themselves from that type of behaviour because of the messaging and the imaging around it.
Good and bad. What else do we need? Any other news before we drift into the good and bad?
That's the sort of high-end stuff. I think just big picture stuff, and we don't often delve into this part of this show, but the rule change, the standing the mark rule, we've now got 2 full rounds of footy, 18 games body of work. It just works, doesn't it?
It's brilliant.
It just works.
And what's the best bit is what's ahead of the ball.
Yep.
So instead of teams being able to smash back and suddenly you're kicking into 30 people, you just haven't got time to do it. So now forwards are hitting. Look at Texan. Just hitting up into leading lanes. It is a far, far better game, and I just hope that the coaches don't work out a way to cock it up, and it stays like this for the whole way through.
11 goals for Tex, Jim. 5 and 6. 11 goals. He kicked 15 goals last year. He's kicked 11 in 2. So
it's great. It's great to see him back. And but the big name players are also clearly benefiting from it. Marcus Bontempelli's performance for the Bulldogs against West Coast on Sunday was. You can't say it's surprising because he's done it so many times before. Since his first season, Jim, he's finished either winning or placed in the best and fairest. So that's since 2015. He's been either winning or placing in that club's best and fairest, and he's already won 3 of them. You'd think what we've seen to this point already, he's going to add a 4th one to it this
Has
year.
he signed yet?
He hasn't. No, he won't be going anywhere.
Well, you wouldn't think, but he hasn't signed.
I can't imagine him going anywhere, Bill.
Righto.
He's hitting
Unless
the
you know something I don't know.
No. I'm in there. I'm in the tent.
Oh,
there.
yeah, Bill. He's hitting the scoreboard, which is what.
Yeah.
As soon as he started doing that purple, he was going to be in the top 2.
Yeah. And it's good to see Norton kick the 3 goals as well. I mean, he's still a work in progress and will be for some time, but was crucial at crucial stages yesterday, as was McRae. But we've seen that for 5 years already, haven't we, as well, when it comes to him. Dunkley had a good return to form, Bill. He'd been out of sorts in the off-season, having wanted to leave the club at the end of last year, but he's clearly back. He was as good as anyone, bar Bontempelli on the ground yesterday.
He's a bit of a worry, speaking of captains, who's not playing well, Patrick Cripps.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he hasn't signed either. Another captain.
No, and he's got a very clever answer as to how he responds to that publicly when he's asked about that he's happy and it's all going to take its course. But when that club is now 0-2, and we'll touch on them in the negatives, but I think it's a bit of a worry about what's unfolding there.
For me, Purple, there's a couple of glaring positives. Sydney are one of them, and Melbourne are the other. I don't think any of us saw them 2-0, either of those clubs, and playing very nice football.
Very nice football for different reasons. I think Don Pike's been a big influence, Jim. I know you're quite close to him from the WA days, and clearly he's having effect, Bill, on marrying his thoughts up with John Longmire's and how they are playing. And John Longmire has set this club up beautifully over the past couple of years. Got some games into some kids. Now they're benefiting. Bill, you're big on the academy access they've got to key players.
They've got another 3 or 4 that we haven't spoken about.
Yep.
The left footer we're talking about out there.
Braden Campbell.
Have you seen him?
I'm well aware of his talents,
Wow,
Yeah.
Mate, they've got about 4 or 5.
There's 6 who've come from the academy,
Right.
and they're all going to be impactful and have been already. And just having Bud back, it's just so exciting, isn't it? And even just speaking to like Matty Lloyd, Jim, he's big on Bud now with where he's at his career, with the new rules the way they are, the way that club is now set up. He can stay closer to goal, which would help him when it comes to pinging the hamstrings and the calves, which he's been doing in recent years. So that's a huge positive. Your point about Melbourne, how they've come into the season with adversity, no Ben Brown, no Sam Wiedemann. It was meant to be, well, what's going to happen? They've just put McDonald back in there, put the onus on him, and structured around him. Others have lifted.
Cozzy.
It's now a problem, isn't it, Bill? Not a problem, but it's a good problem. When both those guys are ready to come back in.
They don't come back in.
Well, they may not. I mean, they will
Well,
because they're good players. They're good players in the 22, but it's going to require a bit of a rethink. And Cozzy Pickett, wow.
The most exciting player at the minute, without doubt.
Yeah, I reckon he just about is, Bill. He's clean, isn't he?
Not only that, he is a spring-heeled jack. So Flying Ryan, who we love, Cozzy will take those sort of marks. He jumps on people's heads. He's like Michael Mitchell. Remember him from Richmond? Remember how Mitch used to be able to just jump on people's
over
heads?
a bloke.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unbelievable.
He's standing on a bloke's head and had to bend down himself to actually mark the ball.
That's the sort of player he is.
You mentioned the Spring Hill. Liam Ryan, he flew for 3 massive marks.
Yeah.
I thought he was unlucky not to be paid the middle one of those 3, but the other 2, he didn't get near him, but he was up on the head.
What about Paul Gardner won out with him?
The
worst possible scenario you can be in. You're a big lumbering defender and you look around and there's Flan Ryan and there's no one within 50 metres of your fat and he just, he made him look as he would have made him look.
Like
properly stupid. You just walked around him. I love what they're doing, Melbourne. I think credit to Goody because he's under a lot of pressure coming into this year. They've also, as you said, got players out. They're doing very, very nicely. Now, there are some mobs that aren't. No. So I think we'll just have a little break and get to them after this.
Triple M's Rush Hour, JB and Bill. On the Listener app, listen anytime, anywhere, and on Triple M. This is the Rush Hour, JB and Bill, and Damian Barrett's in to chat round 2.
I got a question, Damien.
Go for it, Bill.
Who would you want to coach at the minute, Essendon or the Giants?
Slim pickings, isn't it?
It's a hard one. Good question.
I'm like, I'll go with the Giants, but it's just,
isn't it?
Because
they're both going like busted.
Yeah, and then you've got another a level lower than that in North Melbourne, who's even worse.
Well,
than
we know
both.
that. We know.
Yeah,
North.
we know
and
that.
They've got 3 very good players out and all that.
Yeah,
but those other 2.
No, but Bill, I know they've got 3 good players, and they are very good players.
Well, they're their best players,
but
Jim.
Bill, when you've got a Gold Coast footy reporter accurately saying that what they served up was uncompetitive rubbish. That's coming from someone up there. That's not Damo or, someone who actually knows what they're looking at. This is a Gold Coast footy reporter, and he nailed it. That's what for 40 minutes of that game, Purple. That was unrecognisable what North served up. And I was at a dinner at a mate's joint who happens to be a North supporter. Funnily enough, he's from Liverpool, so it's weird that he is. And he had it on, and I had to say to him, "You need to turn that off. I can't sit here and enjoy having dinner in this beautiful family with that crap in the background. You're going to have to turn it off." But Essendon, real concerns. Carlton, real concerns. And GWS, real concerns.
They're the ones, aren't they? Carlton just needs to do something it's not doing, and they've started horrendously, giving it to 0-2. And I'm not buying they're okay against Richmond. They're okay against Collingwood. Being okay is not going to cop it and cut it now for Carlton. And that's where they're at right now. And the pressure is here right now for them. Essendon, look, there was an expectation it was going to be a bad year, but losing in the manner in which they lost to Hawthorn in round one, when they were 8 goals to 1 at one stage in the second quarter, that was horrendous. We then saw what happened when they get against a really good team in Port Adelaide. So it's just going to be a very long year. But GWS, dangerous to make comments, isn't it, Jim, usually after round 2 of a season. But when you add the 2 rounds of this year to the 17 of last year, you go back to the grand final of 2019, 19 matches have been played since that time. They've won 8.
Yeah.
So,
and Purple, Freo got, 6 of their best players out?
Yeah.
I mean, they are injury riddled.
Yeah.
So I know it's in Perth.
Yep. And had they kicked accurately, the Dockers, it would have been even worse than it was. So, they're the 3 big worries. Just talking about worries and negatives to come out of the weekend, Lachie Neale, Bill, I reckon he's created a problem for himself in the way, not so much for getting beaten by Mark O'Connor in an old-fashioned tag, but for the manner and the complaining with which he carried on with. Now, that's fine, and he's allowed to do that, but other clubs take note of these situations.
And playing for free kicks.
Yep.
And the umpires are onto that also. But also, just whinging and carrying on. And went forward, and well done to Mark O'Connor. But that's right. They're going to tag him now. He'll get tagged for the rest of the year now, no doubt.
So who would
that's
lose?
a big game coming up.
Isn't it, on Thursday night?
Oh, man.
Yeah, big game.
You don't want to be 0-3.
No.
It's a long way back from there.
And it's working against them, given they've had to stay down here for a game that they would have thought, well, okay, we'll go back to the Gabba and we'll just get one away. But now they're going to stay with one pair of underwear, Bill, for the week, given they've been here since last Thursday.
No, I think they've been to Dimmies.
Have they?
Yeah. And you buy the 5 for about $8, so they'll use it.
Collingwood were good.
They were.
I told Rabbit says at Collingwood Nuffy, that was the easiest game to tip of the round for me. Collingwood always going to win that game.
They changed their game from round 1, which I like.
They did.
And leading and hitting, blokes on the lead in the forward line.
And just in keeping with these changes that the new rules have brought into the game, you can have a scenario where Harry Mackay kicks 4 goals on Darcy Moore, and yet you would be valid in saying Darcy Moore was the best player on the ground the way he played. And it's just great matchups around. I'm really admiring the way Jack Crisp's gone around his whole career too, and just the evolution of him. Initially at Brisbane Lions, and just couldn't get out of there quick enough, and then came down as a serviceable player, Bill. But now he's in their A grade, air A grade.
He's in the midfield now.
Yeah,
I tell you, speaking of midfield, Taylor Adams, don't you love him?
Yeah.
And that tackle towards the end there, and
you'd go to war with him.
And you'd let him go first.
We'd want to go first.
Yeah.
Well, you'd let anyone go first.
That's true. Exactly. I had to do me shoelace up.
Yeah, just like the rifle just slipped as you were going over the top.
Forgot me gun.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We played it yesterday, Jim, at half time of the 95 grand final, where he's in a little skirmish with Ange Christou.
And on top.
And he actually had him on the ground.
Ange
He had him
built
pinned.
like you.
But then Cooter came in.
Cooter got me.
That was the end of fat.
Then he was gone.
No, it took me a while to get both of them down. But then Barry Stoneham hit Cooter and got fined 20 grand. And Bazza wasn't even playing.
What else from the good side?
Yeah, the good side. You touched on the North Melbourne bad side of that game against Gold Coast. This is not a secret. He got drafted really high, and he's been on the verge for some time. But Jack Lukosius is, I think, just about there, isn't he, Bill?
He's the best kick nearly going around.
Well,
he's good. David Mundy
also
might be.
very
Oh,
good.
sorry, Dara.
We'll go with they need some credit. I mean, David Mundy, just what a story that man is.
Nuts. No, he has been elite forever, and because he's in Freo and because he's such a low-key bloke, he sort of flies under the radar of just how good his career has been. He's a superstar of the game, David Mundy. Noah Anderson's the other one for Gold Coast.
Yeah,
too.
it is, isn't it? Obviously, all the fanfare in that lead up to the draft, Rowell and Anderson and the friendship that they've got, and he put together a very good year himself last year, despite it still being overshadowed by the 5 games that his mate Rowell had
Yep.
played, and before getting injured, and the 9 Brownlow votes that he got in consecutive weeks. But yeah, you speak to anyone up at the Gold Coast, he is tracking as well as anyone out of that draft, and it was an extraordinary draft.
And stupid little vertically challenged Mekong Steve.
He was good
He
again.
should have kicked 3. Got on the had 32 of it or something.
You're talking about your
Andrew,
nephew,
Yep.
Andrew.
Yep, a
Brayshaw
Coke
for
bottle
the-
ankle sort of setup. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Purple, he's putting together a nice 50 game.
Yeah, he is.
Going beautifully.
And the combination with him and Cherry in the middle, and
Sarong.
Sarong, who had a great year, as we know, and was well rewarded last year for that year himself, and being able to team up with people like Mundy and Fife before he got nagged. But that's a worry out of the weekend, the hit from on him with Sam Reid.
Because he's
now.
got history, hasn't he?
Got history with that
Yeah.
headspace. Yeah, he has. Just bouncing topics around, and I'm just loving the emergence again of the big star, and Maxi Gawn is a big star, and his role for the Demons in those opening 2 wins of the year, particularly against St Kilda. Now, okay, you could say he didn't have a major opponent, and he didn't, Bill, because they're really diminished in that space on the ground at the moment, the Saints. But his work rate, and if you watch the down-the-ground vision, which you can on afl.com.au on access all areas, it's just extraordinary, running hundreds of metres just to get to the position to mark a
Dropping
footy.
back. If
Dropping
he drops back, he just marks it. No one can outmark him.
Gary Dempsey style.
Exactly right. You know who is a star over at Port Adelaide? Zach Butters.
Yeah.
He, pound for pound, he's only a little slight like you, Jim, but hard. Isn't he hard?
Like me, exactly.
Not hard. That's a big difference.
That's the analogy.
No, it's not.
He just
He's
wants
skinny.
to hurt people,
He
doesn't
does, and he's
Yeah.
only tiny. He's
Remember
like
his-
Linguini over there.
Remember his first game when he came in with Rosie and also Dersma, and they were taking on verbally
Yeah, I know.
and physically
That's
Max
right.
Gawn in their very first game of footy.
And Rosie's got to come back yet, doesn't he?
He's got that foot injury, which they keep saying is not serious, but it's at the same time you don't want a foot injury the way it was at the start of the year.
They're travelling all right.
But they're killing
No,
it.
no,
Although
they're gonna be
they've
fine.
beaten 2 teams who aren't going to figure, being North Melbourne and Essendon. Their test will come in a couple of weeks'
True,
time when
but-
they've got the Tigers.
Credit to Butters, though, because early on, Bill, that was a knock on him. They
Was
worried
it?
that he
Was
was a
it?
bit windy,
No,
and
I
they
didn't
were
know that.
absolutely.
Fair
When
dinkum,
coming
I
out of the
didn't know that.
draft, they were all a bit light
he's
and
tough.
a bit outside and a bit, and he has just absolutely put that to the sword. Credit to him, and I like Port. Well, how could you not? But for some rain in that prelim final day, they could have got over Richmond and easily gone on and had a really good grand
The
final
solace
day.
they got out of it, I feel, Jim, was that they did everything they could do, but except win the game of
Yep.
footy. And as we know, and as we knew last year, you've got to beat Richmond sometimes 3 times within a match.
Yes.
They beat them twice within
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah.
They just didn't beat them when the siren went. And you couldn't possibly be critical of yourself if you're Port Adelaide on what happened there last year. They've started this year with the intent,
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
they? Which
No,
which
they're
is
good.
all
And they're good to
they're-
watch. That's the other
They're
thing.
great to
They're
watch.
a good team to watch.
Just one quick one before we go. The Spuds game, time to talk. That was just done magnificently. I know you played your own role, Jim, there in the official pre-match function, and what went on the ground with
Yeah, I
with
didn't
Gary.
see that, but apparently it was great.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was really well done.
Yeah, it
and
was.
and as we said on Saturday, Rub Bill, Anita Frawley wants it to be a full round dedicated
Yeah,
to the
full round.
cause next year. And given Anita's ways, I think,
Yes.
with getting things done,
a great
I'm
idea.
going to back her in to have that next year. the whole
Interstate,
round.
everywhere.
Every game.
Interstate
Yeah.
should be.
Plugger,
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
It was good to see Plugger.
Oh, yes. He can still see the eyes on him, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Like down the rooms, I'm looking at him going, "Jeez, you still got him, Bill, haven't he?"
Did they? The end was still the Lockett end and Frawley end.
I didn't catch
So
up
did
with that
that black
aspect of it.
out Matty Lloyd's?
Oh no.
Oh, did they?
I don't know.
Oh, he wouldn't be happy with
Speaking of that,
Oh,
Channel 9, what, did we get hacked over the weekend?
I understand your show went into Sydney and Brisbane.
National.
Jeez, they would have been unhappy.
But you know, the only problem was TJ's opened it up with
Oh, no.
it went a bit long, and I nearly would have gone punk with the old
no.
remote. But he went for some gold. Guess who he throws to for a bit of gold off the top? Kane.
Oh, and
If they didn't hit it when Chompers was talking, they certainly hit it when Kane was talking.
imagine if you're like northern beaches of Sydney, you're up at Curl,
Yeah.
DY.
Narrabeen.
You're just Narrabeen, you're watching your box, and there comes Fat. Oh, what's this shit?
Well, they thought it was the big man. They thought they were watching the big man, and then they who was Sterlo?
Kane.
Kane was Sterlo. But we went
The
national.
big man.
Oh, I know.
Because Sydney couldn't
How
do
they
any.
couldn't broadcast.
You know what I'm hearing, Jim?
You allowed to say this, Bill?
What?
Weren't we told not to talk about it?
We got hacked by a big country overseas.
Yeah. So
Which
is
one?
that what you're hearing?
Which one?
China. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, is that what you're hearing? Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Is that what you hear that, Dave?
I heard another country, Bill.
Oh, Russia. All right. One of them, Jim.
Good
Not
seeing
saying
you,
anything. Hey,
Purple.
what about the whole golden slipper? Stay inside. There's Russell. What about the winner of the golden slipper? Easy win there
Yeah,
to
wasn't
stay
it?
inside. That was the omen bet because of the weather in Sydney. You should stay inside.
You went with that all week. I didn't think it was funny the first time,
No,
Bill, and
still isn't.
I'm not sure it actually had any relevance given that the people were able to go.
All right, Damo, off.
Damo's recovery session.
Jabe, I don't know how it is, but Bill's quote slipped in this week as well.
We've
That's
run over. We've run over with Purple, so there's no quote.
That's a rush hour at Triple M.